Hi, welcome to tuning in to Mikey's Video Game Madness or watching it or whatever. A lot of people don't, so thank you so much for checking out my video. I have plenty of other videos you can check out. I'm not begging you because I don't make a dime off of this. Anyway, today we're playing Gravity Rush Remastered. I believe on the box it says Remastered. Right now I'm recording off of a video and I can't go run back and check the box. Obviously I could, but it'd be awkward for filming. So yeah, I just said Remastered right there. So yeah, this is a remastered version of a PlayStation Vita. If you're not familiar with the PlayStation Vita, it's PlayStation's second handheld that they came out with. We're not counting their cell phones that they came out with. On the Vita version, you would actually have to take your finger and tap the touchscreen. I have the Vita version. It was part of one of those free games of the PlayStation Plus deal. They cut back a little bit on the free games, but I'm pretty excited they actually got Gone Home. I'm so glad I didn't buy that because that was one of the games I like to buy. A lot of people don't like the walking type simulator games, but I quite enjoy them because they're very immersive. I also have Soma, which I plan on doing a video of eventually, as well as a ton of other shit, but we should be talking about Gravity Rush Remastered. But anyway, this was originally on the Vita, which I got as a free game, and I was surprised. It's quite a nice looking game if you're not familiar with the Vita. It basically had almost as much power as the PlayStation 3, which was quite impressive. They tried to bring a console experience to a handheld, but it also had a gyroscope and touch screens not only on the front and the back. And for some time, if you had AT&T as your cell phone provider, you actually could get a service that used cellular waves, or whatever you want to call it, cellular data, to you'd use that as an internet and actually could connect to like your PlayStation 4, I believe your 3 as well, if the game was compatible, and you could play your actual console games on the go. A lot of PlayStation 4 games still have remote play that you could play it on. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. Basically, this was originally a Vita game. The textures are really enhanced. They're a lot more higher resolution. The frame rate's a lot faster. And even though this does use some motion control, if you think of motion control as the Wii before they got the Motion Plus thing, the Vita and the PlayStation 4 basically have the sensitivity as like the Wii Motion Plus. If you're used to playing games on the PlayStation 3 with motion controls, they weren't really that accurate. Like if you play an infamous Second Son, when you spray paint it, like it wasn't tracking the light because not everybody has a PlayStation View, I believe what it's called, the camera, or the PlayStation Eye. I don't know what they call the PlayStation 4 version, which is really sad because I own it and that's what I record my show with. But anyway, the controls on it were so sensitive, it could understand whether you were going like vertical or horizontally, where you could actually play like a light gun shooter with like a crosshair, but like you can move your controller and it would pick up exactly where you were moving it. You couldn't do that with the PlayStation 3 controller. And the Wii controller actually required like infrared to be pointed at the screen. Like this just used gyroscopic controls and they were super accurate, but I'm not a huge fan of motion control, so with this remake, since the PlayStation 4 has more buttons, a lot of the motion controls, you can either use the motion controls, which on the PlayStation 4 work perfectly fine. They're super sensitive. Like I said, you could actually spray paint a picture or play like the Wii kind of light gun games where, I mean, you can't like look at the controller and aim at the screen, but you could move around a crosshair as fast as you could maybe like a mouse on a computer. But it's super accurate. But you have the option to use the motion controls or the right analog stick. I prefer the right analog stick. It controls quite well. This is download only unless you go on Amazon.com, which I highly recommend. and they are actually the only distributor that I know of that sells physical copies. So unless somebody gives up their used copy at GameStop or any other place, you're not going to find a physical copy unless you go to Amazon.com. That's exactly what I did, because the price of the game costs exactly the same unless it goes on sale on the PlayStation Store, like during their flash sales or something. So it's ridiculous to me to, unless you're just impatient, to get a digital copy versus a physical one, because anything could happen with your hard drive, the servers, etc., etc. Now, I'm not gonna diss the whole digital thing. That's a whole conversation on its own. Sometimes you don't have a choice, and I want to play. If I'm interested in the game, I'm gonna want to play it any way I can. But if I have the option between a digital and physical copy, I will always get the physical copy. That's just me. I just like getting the case, the manual. Sometimes they come with the manual, sometimes they don't, or they just come with a sheet of paper. But I like the artwork on the case and all that stuff. I feel like I'm getting something, and if it costs the same price, it's definitely worth it. I probably should start talking about this game. As you can see, obviously it's beautiful. It was beautiful on the Vita. The Vita had an OLED screen, which always looks nice. The blacks are super dark. The colors are super vibrant. I'm talking about the old PlayStation Vita, the newer redesigned version, which I haven't personally messed around with or played on. Messed around with sounds like I've been cheating on it or fondling it in some way. But anyway, that uses that LED screen. I haven't actually seen one of those in person beside the actual box. So I have an older PlayStation Vita, which looks and plays great, although the newer one looks like it's more comfortable to play on, as the original PlayStation Vita was quite big and had quite a bit of heft to it as well. It's a great system, but I definitely recommend getting cases for it. I need to get a case for mine because the back of it especially is getting scuffed up, and it has a touchscreen on the back. So some of the stuff you do with the touchscreen on the back of the Vita, you'll actually use the triggers. But this is an interesting platformer. As you can see, you have to think in ways different than you would play a normal platformer. See, even though that's a wall at that point in time, once you zoom to it and connect to it, it becomes a floor, and then the wall becomes a floor. So you have to, in order to transverse around the world, you literally have to look at things from all different directions. It keeps on restarting the game because this is a tutorial and I haven't played this for a while. But one benefit of this game is there is like subtle things you had to do at the back of the screen, like because it has a touch screen, kind of like an iPhone, where it picks up multiple presses or touches on the screen. It's not like a old school Nintendo DS touchscreen that's just pressure sensitive. Like the Vita picked up electrical signals on your hand, so sometimes in order to do certain things you would have to touch the back of the screen with like your two fingers and slide it around. Now thankfully the controls are at least more improved for me. Some people might prefer the touchscreen controls, but you can use the triggers to do all that stuff. There is an actual touchpad on the PlayStation 4 if you're not familiar with the PlayStation 4, but I haven't used it yet. I haven't played a lot of this particular version of the game, but it seems like you can get away with playing most of it just traditionally, and instead of using the gyroscope, which you can still use to move the cursor around when you're trying to get to the next platform, because even though the PlayStation Vita had two analog sticks and encouraged you to use the gyroscope controls, with a handheld I think it's sort of awkward. I don't like motion controls all that much in general, but being in public swinging your system around, I mean, I don't know, I would be kind of embarrassed. And I had it, but it was subtle enough, but still just moving it all around all over the place. Luckily I was at a laundromat when I usually played my Vita, so some of the people there were sort of out of their mind anyway. Not that there's anything wrong with doing your laundry, it was just the area. So you'll notice that these people talk in their own made up language. It sort of sounds French a little bit, but it's its own made-up language. I looked it up to make sure I wasn't wrong, because obviously I don't speak French. My great-grandfather was actually bilingual, and my great-great-grandfather didn't know how to speak English at all. He immigrated from France, and then my grandmother never knew how to communicate with my great-great-grandfather that spoke French, and she would hear her dad talk back and forth. That was like one of the only people that talked to him. It's sort of interesting because now you see more bilingual people, and I'm kind of bummed. Like when I went to high school, I absolutely hated middle school, and I had like this anti-establishment attitude and stuff like that, which I should have fucking dropped the minute I got there because it was a new place. But I was burned out. I absolutely hated middle school, and even my memories today, I fucking still cringe when I think about it. But high school, by the time I got to my senior year, I kind of wish I did more and stuff like that. Maybe that's why I like Life is Strange, because in the beginning, even though the game gets darker and you go to different places, it's like, look, I'm doing everything I was supposed to in real high school, except I can't manipulate time. But anyway, yeah, like I wish I would have took different language courses and stuff like that. I guess I could go back to college and do all that stuff, but it's so expensive now, and it's just more debt. Maybe if I get to a point where I'm more comfortable, and that just sounds like procrastination right now. Usually if you want to do something, you should just do it, but you know, finances are a huge part in college, and you have to think about the future. You don't want to put yourself in a situation that you also can't crawl out of. So there's a time to take chances, and there's a time where you have to make sure that you're able to at least have a 50% success rate, even though even that's super risky. But anyway, I wish I would have done that. But yeah, there's more, and maybe because some of the people that are related to the people that immigrated here are maybe just the second generation. But I noticed with older people that might have had grandparents or parents that immigrated, it's like they weren't taught the culture. They just kind of wanted to assimilate, if that's the right word, assimilate everybody to be like pure American. I used to know this guy that happened to be Chinese or whatever. He was super nice. He'd do everything for everybody, and I think he desperately just wanted to feel like he had a family. It's really sad. He passed away, and even though he had people around him, you could really tell he was kind of alone. And I think a lot of that stemmed from his brothers and sisters. They were originally from like China or whatever, and his parents immigrated here, so everybody spoke the language. He couldn't even communicate with his own mother and stuff like that. His dad was bilingual, and every time he asked his dad about China or what something meant, I don't know if something bad happened or whatever, and neither does he. His father just told him he didn't need to know, so he was always like an outcast in his family because he couldn't speak the language and everything like that. And it seems like a lot of older generations kind of almost like hid their culture and just tried to be an American as American as possible, and some of the culture and stuff like that quickly faded away. I don't know how it is in other countries and stuff like that, but I guess since here's the melting pot, but you know, since it's a melting pot, I figured you'd want to be as adaptable as possible. I don't know, but yeah, so I looked it up. It's a made-up language. It sounds like a real language. They did a good job on that. I don't know how they went about it, and especially to make it sound French, is interesting. Like when you played Okami, they had a made-up language. If you don't know what Okami is, it's like a version. It plays a lot like Zelda, but you play like as like this wolf goddess thing. I haven't played Okami in a long time. It's a great game, and I enjoyed it greatly. It's made by the people who made Beautiful Joe, and you actually have to draw with the analog stick. It also came out on the Wii and then the PlayStation 3. I have an HD version, which another game I plan on recording at some time, so you'll learn more about that. But they had a made-up language in Animal Crossing too, and on Okami everybody sounded like and there's a language, there's like some Zelda games that have like the made up language too, and then Animal Crossing kind of had that too, where they just had like some sort of randomized sound effect maker where this sounds like the speech was made out and actually read by a real person, so it sounds way more convincing, and they did it in a way where it sounds like it's somehow derived from French in some way. It sounds like a real language, but it's a fake one. But anyway, yeah, this game's really fun. The fighting's kind of okay. What makes this game special is the platforming and the graphics. And since the Vita is a legacy system, which Sony will no longer support with first-party games, although they seem to be getting more games than the PlayStation 3, which is kind of ironic. A lot of Japanese publishers are still supporting the Vita pretty hardcore. Like, even with the PlayStation Plus program, they're releasing a lot of stuff. They're still releasing stuff on PlayStation 3, and PlayStation 3 gets games getting trickled out for it every once in a while, which is nice because it seems like Microsoft is altogether like quit on the Xbox 360 and people publish for it. Like, I have a feeling the only things that are going to come out for the Xbox 360 going forward are either maybe titles that were downloadable for it in sports games. They always seem to be the last games that come out on systems like FIFA or basketball games or Madden and stuff like that. I think the last game that came out on the PlayStation 2 was a soccer game. But anyway, yeah, like, they quit making PlayStation 2s only a few years ago. They quit making PlayStation 3s in some countries, but they still do make PlayStation 3s. Sony is pretty good about supporting their systems for a fairly long time. The PlayStation, I think part of the problem with the PlayStation 3 is that it was pretty hard to develop for, and Sony was still making a lot of money on the PlayStation 2, but we'll see. There haven't been as many adopters of the 8th gen consoles as there was for 7th gen, so a lot of people still have their 7th gen console, so hopefully they'll still get game support. But the Vita is getting a lot of Japanese games still coming out for it and still announced. Persona 5 is actually getting a PlayStation 3 copy in September in Japan. I'm curious if they're going to release the PlayStation 3 version here, because the only one I know that was announced officially for the US was on the PlayStation 4, but that would be so awesome if PlayStation 3 people got to play Persona 5, because I don't know how they could screw up Persona 5 after making so many amazing games. Like, Atlas is such an awesome company in my opinion. I can't say enough. To me, Atlas reminds me of what Squaresoft used to be. Square and Enix, once they got together and branched, they started buying out other companies and releasing all types of games. Atlas just reminds me of old Squaresoft releasing old school RPGs. But anyway, this is Gravity Rush Remastered on the PlayStation 4. I highly recommend it. It's a great platformer with RPG elements. If you want the physical copy, which costs the same as a digital, get it at Amazon.com. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you're all well. Take care. Bye.
If you want to, like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.